Hello there, my friends, my peeps. Welcome back to Carpo's channel. And today we're going to talk about this bullshit idea that you're just going to discover love, the right one, the right person, but not just about love. Happiness, truth, purpose, everything in life. There are 1,000 people out there to promise you that with their course or their blessing, you can find out your life purpose. You just have to go to this class, maybe do a few meditations, or maybe do it for free and do it yourself at home. With the $59.95 course, of course. But whether it's free, whether it costs money, there are plenty of people who want to sell you truth. Just like they will sell you a dating app or a dating course that's designed to find you the right one. The perfect match. As if any other human could tell you who your potential perfect match is. Or if anyone could tell you there is such a thing as a perfect match. Now look, I know many of you probably believe in love at first sight, or believe in people who are destined to be together, quote, soulmates, things like this. And this very well may be a truth. There may be a truth to the fact that our spirits may carry on in some other capacity we don't understand. I will admit that I've been just had some interesting interactions with people that, let's just say, talking about reincarnation in past lives, there is a possibility, maybe. That's not the point of this video, but I just want to let people know that I'm not dismissing that idea. That maybe there are perfect matches or souls that were meant to be together. Okay, so with that out of the way, we move forward into trying to find that soul. The idea that basically, if you buy into that idea, that theology, if you will, you believe that, in a way, everything's already predetermined. It's this old philosophical debate about free will versus determinism, which ultimately goes nowhere. And what inspired me to make this was a video about AI chatbots and people who claim to have these relationships with these AI chatbots. And this idea of love, you may be able to feel a feeling of love towards something that's inanimate. But you're talking about love as defined by one person's feeling, rather than people being in love. Those two words put together are completely different and miles apart. When people are in love, it's totally different than someone loving someone, and you could confuse that with lust, but I feel like I'm getting far too into the emotional category here. I got very lucky with my wife. I met somebody who, as far as I'm concerned, is my soulmate. We are a perfect match, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying that so she doesn't kick my ass. She's very patient and tolerant of my bullshit. And if she had any bullshit at all, I'd be patient and tolerant. But no, she's perfect. She never does anything wrong. You know, when you're a couple for 25 years, and this, mind you, this Christmas, we've been together for 25 years. We got together in '98 and moved in shortly after. You learn a lot about each other, and you learn what true love really is if you end up making it work. And a lot of people fall out of love. They start to hate each other, resent each other. But often this resent can be mended. My wife has resented me plenty of times when I wasn't working, making enough money. I mean, that shit's tough. But she had every right to. It was completely different than resenting someone just for, well, people are fucking crazy out there, dude. In other words, if you can find somebody and hang on to them, somebody that you can trust, you're miles ahead of the game already. And that brings me back to the point here. Oh my God. There must be some shit going on. Here goes the fire department. I'm just going to pause this for a moment. Alright, I think they're pretty much gone now. So, as I was saying, and to get to the point here, love between two people is something that's developed and nurtured. It's something that can grow over time and should grow. And it's a beautiful thing. There are a few other things like this, but that you have to nurture it. You can't just say, I'm going to find the right person and I'm just going to be in love forever without putting in some fucking effort. There are people who will not bend or bow down or do anything to change anything about themselves or improve themselves for their other significant other. This is totally selfish, and we'll never. The only way to make that work is if you're a controlling type, and plenty of people are. If the other person won't bend to their will, they can be the domineering one, and it's not just men. It's not just men. There are some very hostile women out there as well. And I'm not talking about physical violence, but just the mental abuse that we give each other. To me and my wife, thinking about other couples, when we've talked about, like, there are couples out there who scream at each other and fuck you every day and just hate each other. And then they'll make up and then they'll hate each other again. But when I was walking by the park the other day, I heard these two parents screaming at their kid. They didn't know I was walking up because I was behind them going up the fence. And then they saw me and, of course, cooled down. But until then, they'd cussed at their little daughter, said fuck this, fuck that, probably 10 times. Just crude. And I thought, man, you know, this is how people are made. But the little girl was so sweet. She must have been like 3 or 4 playing on the swing set. And so, at any rate, you that's part of nurturing a loving relationship, is also taking care of your children. That's a side note. But another aspect besides love that's like this is purpose. Another thing that, just like people are telling you that you could just find love, you know, overnight, that's just not how it works. Just like you can't find purpose overnight. You're not going to wake up one morning and all of a sudden think, I want to do pottery, and try it and be happy at it and successful and love it all the time for the rest of your life. You might, and if you do, you're one of the few people who can actually pull that off. But a majority of people, especially artistically minded, you might have to go through several different phases before you find what you like. It's a lot of work, a lot of failure. There aren't any shortcuts. And I don't believe we're necessarily born with a purpose, that sometimes we have to evolve through our lives to figure out what we like. I mean, we more or less are a clean slate when we're born, regardless of any previous spiritual realm. We can decide what we want to do with our lives, and that's that free will part. Another one is happiness. Happiness is not something you just decide to do. I'm going to be a happy person. I mean, that's something that takes work as well. And truth, finding the truth. You have to educate yourself about the topics that you want to know before you can even get to the bottom of it. People want to use those words like love, purpose, happiness, and truth as if they are something that you can identify on a web page or a particular video that will just tell you what the truth is. I was thinking, we can't get wiser about our own ignorance if we're ignorant about our own wisdom. In other words, we all have an underlying wisdom that we're unaware of, that we ignore, meanwhile pushing forward this false narrative of wisdom that we think we know more than we do. Deep down inside, we all know what's important. Within society, it's hard to just explain these things to, you know, in general discussions. People don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about deep stuff, and they don't want to talk about the human psyche. I find that expectation breeds disappointment, and our society expects a lot. We have a lot of unrealistic expectations in our society about what we should have and when we should have it, that we should be successful and educated at a certain age and know what we want in life. And really, that's a facade. We see this in other people, and we think we should be doing this too. And that comes back to the old, you know, comparison being the thief of joy, that we're looking at what we could have or what we think would make us happy instead of where we're at now and embracing those things that we already have. I think the most important, the most crucial way, I guess, to like, the best way to figure these things out is to actually interact with people face to face. Going to concerts, going to events, going to parks, joining a sewing group, whatever it might be, where you can talk with people face to face about real life and have these conversations that remind you that human nature is pretty fluid. We can do whatever we want with our minds. We might go from being construction worker to a musician, or a politician to a woodworker. It could be anything. But ultimately, we're always seeking this kind of balance, this homeostasis, this purpose of life. And once we find that, we want to hang on to it, but sometimes it changes. And hopefully you can hang on to some of your purpose in life and your happiness in life and continue to develop it over your lifetime to where you can use it to your own advantage, because you're the only one that can. Pep talk over. Latro peeps.